Chào mừng quý vị quay trở lại với phần tiếp theo của chương trình Tôi và Việt Nam trên kênh FBNC. Quý vị có thể xem lại chương trình trên trang web tôi và Việt Nam fbnc.com hoặc là website của kênh FBNC tại địa chỉ là fbnc.vn. Và trong phần này, mời quý vị cùng tiếp tục với cuộc trao đổi với giáo sư Tony Wagner đến từ Đại học Harvard. Ông sẽ chia sẻ về những kinh nghiệm và những quan điểm của ông liên quan đến việc làm thế nào để các giáo viên có thể phối hợp chặt chẽ hơn và làm việc một cách thực tế hơn với lại các nhà quản lý cũng như là các nhà tuyển dụng, để làm thế nào có một mô hình hợp tác chặt chẽ giữa hai bên, giữa nhà trường và doanh nghiệp, để chuẩn bị cho các sinh viên một nền tảng kiến thức và kỹ năng phù hợp với công việc thực tế đòi hỏi. Trong phần này, ông cũng chia sẻ những quan điểm về cách làm thế nào để tạo ra một môi trường kích thích tinh thần đổi mới và sáng tạo. Mời quý vị cùng theo dõi những chia sẻ sau đây.
So in order to do that, I mean, the teachers should, I can imagine they should work closely with the employers because they must find out what skill really matter.
Yes.
So what seems to be the most effective cooperation model between teachers and employers?
Well, I think the first challenge is for each group to understand they need to learn from the other. Very often employers sometimes act as though they have all the answers for education, when in fact they've never spent a day in a classroom, even observing, let alone trying to teach,
Sure.
or teach 25 or 50 kids in a class. So I think each group needs to understand that they have a part of the solution and they need the other. So one way for teachers and business folks to collaborate together is to work on a school together, to create a model school, a laboratory school. I would love to see more of those kinds of laboratory schools sponsored by a collaboration, a partnership between schools of pedagogy and business leaders.
Sure. So right now, are the businessmen and employers around the world, are they realize that trend and changing their recruitment policies?
Well, business leaders, absolutely. Google 5 years ago used to only hire students from the best universities.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Right.
From Harvard.
From Harvard and so on. And they would only hire students with the highest test scores and the highest grade point averages. Well, they hired a very smart man who relentlessly analyzed the data at Google to discover that, in fact, those indices they were using for hiring were, quote, worthless.
Okay.
So today, they don't look at test scores, they don't look at GPAs, they don't even necessarily require a college degree to get a job at Google. They want students who have a sense of mission, who have a sense of personal autonomy, who've had experience solving a complex analytic problem. So they've totally transformed their hiring system. And I learned today at Deloitte, they've learned the same lesson. They no longer hire the top students. They've discovered that the top students academically aren't necessarily the top performing young people in an innovation economy. So they're now looking for very different sets of skills.
Interesting. So now the chance is open to all kind of students. You don't have to go to a top school in order to get hired by a good company nowadays, right?
Well, I think the change is beginning to happen, but it's going to take time. I think in 5 years, you're going to see total transformations of HR departments. They're not going to rely on the kinds of conventional data that they've used for, half a century, because they're going to simply find that those aren't the top performing employees.
You talk a lot about innovation, and if you may have heard in Asian cultures like Vietnam, and we tend to focus more on majority rather than the individuality, it's like in America. So, I mean, the tallest nails got hammered down, and it's hard for you to speak out if you are the only one who being different. So, I mean, for, creating a better innovative environment, and if someone, it's hard for them to speak out and voice their opinions if they're being different, and he or she is the only one who is creative and innovative among the group. How can we foster innovation in that case?
Well, this is a challenge not just in Asian cultures, because I see the pressure to conform in all cultures. I think it's particularly important in some countries where freedom of speech is not a tradition or not valued by the political system. I think that makes it extremely difficult. But I think innovators are often outliers in any society. And it requires that they have a certain kind of inner strength, inner conviction, a certain kind of quiet courage that is, on the one hand, a lot of confidence, but on the other hand, a complete openness to learning new things. And those things go together, not in easy ways.
So how do you identify a potential innovators?
You know, I often can tell about someone's capacity for innovation by the kinds of questions they ask. They often ask unusual questions or think about things from a different kind of perspective. I think it often begins with the quality of questions that people ask. And of course, that comes back to the classroom and to the parents. Do parents and teachers encourage questioning, encourage thoughtful conversation?
You mentioned a lot in your book about trials and errors. You must accept failures in order to be innovative. There's no innovation if you don't fail. But that easier said than done. If, for example, if you are newcomers in your job, I mean, you got your first task from your boss and you don't plan to fail, but I mean, how can you, being risk avoidance at the same time, foster the trial and errors in order to be innovative?
Yeah. Well, I think the first challenge is to eliminate the word failure. And to think about how human beings learn and how humankind progresses. Imagine if you said to a child, okay, you're going to learn to speak, but you can only speak in complete sentences. Or you're going to learn to walk, but I'm sorry, you can't crawl and you can't fall. So you have to be perfect. Of course, that's ridiculous. We know that as human beings, we learn from trial and error. We learn from making mistakes and then learning from those mistakes. That is the nature of the human species. That's how we make progress culturally. So I think we need to embed that spirit into our corporations. But to answer your question more directly, a young employee trying to figure out his or her way, I think one good strategy is to seek out a good coach. To look around in
like
the organization.
Like a mentor in a company.
Exactly. To find a mentor and to try ideas out before sort of going off on a complete tangent. Say, I'm wondering about, or I have a question about, but to consciously and intentionally find a mentor.
That's for the young employee. But how about for the mid-level managers in a company? They got somebody, high up, their boss. They're not the youngest employee.
Yeah.
They're not in the position to make tough decisions in making innovative changes for the organization, but they're not the youngest one to try and making errors. They're stuck at the middle level.
Yeah.
So what do you do in that situation if you wanted to foster innovation?
Well, I have great sympathy for middle managers because I think they have to, on the one hand, weigh the perhaps conflict of, on the one hand, having job security, staying where you've been, versus perhaps going somewhere else where their innovation skills might be more appreciated or where they have a chance to grow and to be challenged. So those are often, serious conflicts for individuals who are in the middle of their career. And I don't have an easy answer for them. I think that's a tough choice.
Sure. So for now, talking about the skill, the survival skill for the people who wanted to be successful in their career path. But for example, right now, if someone just realized they don't have those skills, so what are some of the first steps that they need to do right now, right away, in order to be well prepared? Where to learn from?
We are born as a species, curious, creative, imaginative. That is the human DNA. So I think one of the challenges is to sort of rediscover those capabilities that we have innately, that's in our genes. There are several ways to do that. I think the most important is to find a way to listen to oneself and to begin with something I'm curious about, questions I have, or something I'd like to learn that's new or different. And again, I think it comes back to listening to oneself. What I used to do as a young teacher, I was trying to figure out how to be a good teacher. I used to carry a card in my pocket, and every time I had a question or something I was puzzled by, or maybe something that I screwed up that I wanted to try to understand, I'd make a quick little note. And I'd take my notes out every Saturday morning, and I would sit down and I would write. I was 21, 22, but I was trying to really think about education in a new way. I was trying to teach myself how to be an innovator in education. And so I think I learned that was important for me to pay attention to what I observed, to listen to my own questions, my own curiosity, to reflect on my own mistakes, and so slowly evolve. But it took me a decade or more.
Vừa rồi là những chia sẻ của giáo sư Tony Wagner đến từ Đại học Harvard liên quan đến tinh thần sáng tạo và đổi mới, cũng như là một mô hình phối hợp chặt chẽ giữa thầy cô giáo và các nhà tuyển dụng, các chủ doanh nghiệp trong việc làm thế nào để chuẩn bị cho sinh viên một nền tảng kiến thức và kỹ năng tốt nhất để họ có thể bước chân vào môi trường làm việc thực tế. Chúng tôi sẽ còn quay trở lại sau ít phút nữa với phần cuối cùng của chương trình. Và trong phần này thì giáo sư Tony Wagner sẽ chia sẻ với chúng ta về kinh nghiệm để có thể giúp cho các bậc cha mẹ làm thế nào có thể chuẩn bị cho các đứa con của mình, những đứa trẻ có thể chuẩn bị và rèn luyện một ý chí, một tinh thần đổi mới sáng tạo để phát triển và phục vụ cho tương lai sau này của các em. Mời quý vị cùng giải lao trong ít phút.